everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. And you're not going to believe the news I have for you all today. You're all wonderful. Yes, even you. No, all sins are forgiven. Everybody's wonderful.
I didn't know you had that power, but that's fantastic. Thank you.
I do. I have done most of my sacraments, so I am allowed to absolve anyone. If you believe in sin, I have absolved you from it. Let's spread the word.
Okay.
It's our new Patreon tier.
So I'm gonna go get to some sinning, and when I come back, absolution, baby. Let's do
There's
it.
a little asterisk that's, sins liable to change. Not all sins are actually forgiven.
Not available in Tennessee.
Yes. Big news today.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that this, according to my rundown, is episode 80?
What?
80 episodes.
What?
80 episodes.
All right. When did we start? We started in
June
8th? 2021.
7th or 8th, yes, last year.
It was the first week of June.
Does the math check out?
I think it does.
Okay, great.
I think we're on schedule.
Fantastic. 80 episodes.
What a milestone.
Yeah, we're going to be sometime next year, in the middle of next year, if all goes well, and by all goes well means that the Earth is still rotating, we could be in triple digits. We
My
could.
God.
We could
so fast.
We could not do anything for episode 100 and talk about we should do something for episode 100. Be like, let's just do episode 100.
Could the episode 100 just be us talking about doing something for episode 100?
Yes. And then sometime during episode 100, we will say, well, actually, technically the 100th episode was the last one because we did episode 0.
Oh, yeah, we did that episode 0. Yeah, there we go.
So
we broke everything.
Yeah, we always break it. Folks, you're listening to the Nextlander podcast. Like I said, 80 episodes. I want to thank everybody, of course, for helping us get to 80. I want to thank the video games, even the bad ones, for helping us get here.
Especially the bad ones.
Especially all the acquisitions that have happened that have allowed us to get here.
Not so much all the crimes. No more crimes, please.
No, the crimes we could do without, but and we'll talk more about what's going on in the world of video game acquisitions later. But on this episode, episode 80, we'll be talking about High on Life, the Callisto Protocol, Melatonin. Alex, you saw some Forspoken, and you have played the demo. I did not play it. And possibly some updates on everyone's favorite game, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and some Crisis Core.
Reunion
has touched the Crisis Core. We got a lot to get to because we're also going to talk about the Game Awards that happened and the 1,000 trailers that were shown. And we're going to talk about some of our favorites. So without further ado, let's get right into the video games. Starting with High.
I want to get high.
Get high.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
High.
Okay.
That's my Be Real impression.
It's
not very good.
It's the realist. High on Life. Squanch Games.
Squanch Games.
This
game does not run on Squanch Tech.
Oh, does it run on Unreal? Some flavor of Unreal? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
as most video games do now.
Okay. Well, I would have liked if Squanch Tech had made its way into the video game world. High on Life. Okay.
So this is the third thing from them because there was the Rick and Morty VR and then there was Trover Saves the World.
Yes. Okay, yes. I knew about Trover. I totally forgot there was also that Rick and Morty.
It was very
VR
forgettable. That's understandable.
Yes. I played that thing, I think.
Yeah. It's not much.
Okay. Before we get into actual High on Life, the video game, this is Justin Roiland's
game studio.
It is his game studio.
Yes.
Well, at the very least, he is the creative director, but I'm pretty sure he also is the founder of the studio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's one of the founders, according to this internet documentation I'm looking at.
Okay. He is all over this game, High on Life. And if you don't know, it's Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame. In it, I would say this game has similar vibes and a similar sensibilities, I will say, to Rick and Morty, though it is not written by Justin Roiland. Is that correct?
So when I went to see it some weeks back, they mentioned that at the very least, he's not the lead writer on it. He may have done some writing for it, but he's not the primary writer on it. But he is certainly the central performer in it.
Yeah, I've read in reference to this game recently, like he tends to improv a lot of his dialogue.
Yes.
Okay.
In the booth, so I guess you could say de facto he wrote a lot of his lines.
Like, they probably gave him a prompt and just said, this is what we want here, and he just went. And that is the style of humor here, is bits that just go.
So,
yeah, sure.
So High on Life is a game where you play as an Earthling. The planet Earth is invaded by aliens that want to use the Earthlings for drugs. Basically, a alien criminal cartel
G3.
The G3 has enslaved most of Earth and are going to smoke them or do whatever they do to them as Harvest them. You have escaped fortuitously because you have found a Gatlian, which is a sentient race of creatures that resemble guns with different kinds of ammunition and powers.
And they do have projectiles.
This is the talking gun game.
Yes.
It's a talking gun game. So you start off with oh man, I always forget his name. Is it Kenny?
Yeah, it's Kenny.
Kenny the gun, which is voiced by Justin Roiland. And you get other guns along the way, voiced by other known voice actors or actors and actresses.
JB Smoove is one of the first ones you get. There's a few others.
Were these not known? I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and there are names such as Thomas Middleditch and Jack Black on here that I wonder if those were not publicized before release.
So not all of those are guns. Some of those are just people who voice it. Like Tom Kenny does a couple of significant characters in the game. Maria Bamford does a couple of significant characters, but I don't think either of them do guns.
Okay.
So the kind of thrust of the game is you are trying to take down the G3 cartel by doing that you're trying to take down certain high-ranking members as basically bounties. You go to an area. It is run by a cartel member, a high-ranking cartel member. You work your way through the level. Usually, or in my experience, I've not finished the game, but I have done about 3 now or 4 of these.
I'm on the 4th bounty now. Okay.
And it seems like the setup is either you will get a new Gatlian in the course of the level, or you will get a new Gatlian by beating the level. Mm-hmm. So, and the Gatlians usually have some kind of like a shotgun mechanic or rapid fire, but also a traversal mechanic. Yes,
a trick hole.
A trick hole. So they will have like an alt fire as well, which is their trick hole. So let's say Kenny, the Gatlian you start with, is your basic hand cannon, your basic blaster with a trick hole shot that is a lob shot that kind of launches enemies up into the air. You will get a shotgun that can create platforms for you.
It also has a vacuum that sucks smaller enemies in, so you can blast them up close.
Or sucks their armor off and kind of gives you... I think it gives you the benefits of the armor, too. Or at least it says it does. I think it does. A time slowing down mechanic on some other guns. There's like a traversal, which will allow you to explore other areas of the level, usually in service of finding chests which contain money, which you can buy upgrades for either the Gatlians or for your spacesuit. Things like better health, things like a slide, things like...
that power slide's pretty good, I gotta be honest. That's like one of the better things you get.
Power slide's pretty good. So there are upgrades. There are... I would say there's variety in the levels, but it's of a similar aesthetic in the levels so far.
The shooting there's not a lot of variety in. Like, they give you some different level-based puzzles or traversal things to deal with, but by and large, whenever an enemy or there is a combat sequence, it is an arena style, like, here's a batch of enemies, disperse with them, maybe some more will warp in, but once you're done, then you just kind of move on to the next section.
The game opens with you playing a faux early 90s PC first-person shooter, which I felt was a bit telling.
Yes.
About what kind of game it will be, because it is kind of like that. I mean, it's a little more open than that, but...
And I will say that opening bit is one of the better bits in the game.
I laughed at that part.
Yes.
That intro is pretty good.
So I guess this is the kind of big thing with this game. It is a kind of serviceable shooter wrapped in this.
It's a comedy game. It's straight up a comedy game.
Yes.
So I've had fun with it. There are parts I have laughed at. There are parts I have panned. There are parts I have sighed at. Some of my issue, aside mechanically from the gameplay, with kind of the sense of pacing with the humor is. It's a lot. It can be exhausting. That's what I found. It can be a lot. The faucet is kind of always on. And it's not necessarily the chatter from the guns. It's kind of the
It's a lot of the side characters too.
It's the tone of it.
Yeah.
The tone is, it's a dark comedy. It's kind of like Rick and Morty-ish, kind of sadistic in ways. And
it's that same kind of dirtbag sci-fi that Rick and Morty and also Solar Opposites, the other animated show that Roiland's company does. It's the same idea where it's like it's a bunch of sci-fi shit, but also everyone's a scumbag and
horrible things happen often.
And the bits themselves, like there are some good one-liners, there are some good short jokes, but its recurring theme is the thing that are like kind of you see this sometimes in Rick and Morty. It's a bit where a character just keeps going way past where you think the joke will end. And I'm talking in some cases minutes where you are standing. You can always leave. You don't have to listen to all of it in a lot of cases. But there are times where a character will just be like, I'm the goop guy. I'm the guy. You want some goop? I can get you some goop. It's not good goop. I'm going to tell you right now, it's fake goop, but you need the goop if you're going to go. It just goes on for like 90 seconds.
And sometimes that's very funny to me, and sometimes I want to move on. But like, it is a lot of that. And like I said, sometimes it's fun, and sometimes the stuff is like, okay. Mm-hmm. But I'm enjoying playing it for the most part. I would call it kind of average to slightly above average is my experience here. Like, I don't love it, and I find some of the combat to be a little tedious sometimes, especially in those arenas where I'm like, okay, really, we're going to do another wave of this?
Wave? Okay,
yeah,
come on.
Come on. But I am excited every time I do get a new gun, and I do enjoy the new mechanics and some suit mechanics. I do enjoy getting the new traversal mechanics.
The jetpack is nice too. When I got that, I was pretty happy.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there, and it's okay. Yeah, like it's like I said, it's that not everything has to be fantastic and not everything has to be terrible. It's kind of right in the middle there.
Yeah,
for comedy though, I feel like comedy can't not hit very much before it starts to wear out its welcome. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the shooting part being kind of whatever is like tolerable. It's not bad,
functional.
Yeah.
Well, the problem
that's fine, but like the comedy kind of needs to keep up its end of the bargain, at least for me. I don't know. This game is probably my most intense exposure to Justin Roiland to date. Like, I've never seen Rick and Morty. I don't know shit about shit there. And like, it's been decent so far. Like,
yeah, it's
but again, like maybe I just haven't had a chance to get worn out on that style of delivery.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen all of Rick and Morty, and I think more of that show hits than doesn't. I think here it's closer to a 50-50 average for me. The problem is the other 50 are some of the longest bits in the game, and that's maybe where I'm having a little bit of exhaustion with it. It's it's not unfunny. It's just that it chooses to labor on parts sometimes that feel like they ran out of joke, and the only way they're going to get through it is if they just beat you over the head with the fact that they ran out of joke.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes that thing of they're intentionally doing a thing to be annoying, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, yeah, I know it's supposed to be funny because it's annoying, but it really doesn't make it any less annoying. It's actually really annoying. And it was funny when we streamed it. I feel like there was the reactions were all over the place. Mm-hmm. One of the funniest ones that I read was, or one of the most interesting ones was, I think Rick and Morty is super funny. I don't think this is, which is fair. You know, like it's, it's shorthand. Hey, this is Rick and Morty, but Rick and Morty is highly edited, and those bits are seconds long sometimes. So you're in and out of a bit. This is not edited at all. You're kind of one long take for all of this stuff, which is hard. It makes comedy hard in games.
Yeah, but even in like that hub city, even if you walk away from people talking, like you're still going to hear what they're saying as you walk away, you know?
Yeah.
Like the stuff that goes, you can't just immediately like bail out of it.
So, and there's only so much, setup they can do in a game for the comedy because you're in control of the character for the most part. So unless they take it completely away and do a cutscene, you're mostly in control of what's happening, whether you're going to look at it, the angle you're going to do. It's tough. That stuff has always been hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to play more of it. I kind of want to wrap it up. I really have no idea how long it is, but I can't imagine it's too long.
It doesn't feel long. It feels like something that is probably no more than 10 hours, if I had to guess, at least at the pace that I'm pushing through it.
And there are mechanical issues I have with it, but overall I feel like I'm doing all right with it. There's some navigation stuff sometimes that I'm like, I'm kind of lost here. They give you a waypoint you can find, but if you go back into a level, sometimes they won't show you your waypoint. Like if you put the HUD up and it's like, I don't remember where the warp gate is here, man. You're gonna have to help me out. There's some reasons to go back into levels. Those loot chests, the warp cores, you could do some warping in of special stuff there.
Did you go to Cutie Town?
I haven't warped in Cutie Town. I bought Cutie Town.
You should go to Cutie Town.
Okay, I have to find where to warp Cutie Town in. Would you remember what level it's in?
I think you can kind of do it at any area where there's a warp zone, like the old town place, the shitty fucking asteroid place. There was a spot where you could warp stuff in there. That's where I did it.
Okay, I should check that out. Some stuff is they are doing some interesting things. Just heads up if you are playing in the margins where you have a bit of a Mega Man style choice of the bounties you want to take on. Slightly, they don't give you everything.
They give you like two at a time, and you can decide which one you want to do.
And it does seem like there might be some, hey, this was a better one to do first, or this fit my play style to do first than this other one, or you got some information before on one that helped you out in another one, and maybe it's reciprocal on both of them. I don't know if one is better to do than the other, but I want to say even there might be information in the levels to help you out with boss fights.
Oh, there is.
Like weak points and things like that.
So there's one, I won't spoil the bit, but there's one bit where I got a specific gun before I went and did another mission, and that gun commented on some stuff that gave me information about what was coming up in the final encounter, and it actually changed because I did it was the same section I did in that original demo that I played, and I did it with I had the Kenny gun out when I played it in the demo, so I tried the other gun, and he actually clued me into something. So there are some like slightly different paths you can get and some different bits you can get depending on which gun you have. Like in the stream we did, I couldn't pretend to be the boss because I didn't have the needle gun.
Oh, okay, interesting. So
they made me go through the paperwork mini game that you have to do as an employee, which you don't have to do if you have the other gun.
That's interesting. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
And there's stuff like that. And there's also, they did a deal with Vinegar Syndrome, which is a boutique Blu-ray label that does a lot of grindhouse, classic slasher and like skin flick type stuff. I mean, they occasionally do big movies too, like they did the Roadhouse 4K that just came out, but also they do a lot of kung fu stuff. Anyway, they apparently have like 4 full movies in that game.
That's not just the one.
Yeah, Tammy and the T-Rex is the first one that you run into, but apparently Blood Harvest, Demon Wind, and Vampire Hookers are also in there, which are all movies they put out.
Do they all just play on that same TV in your house, or do they show up somewhere else?
As far as I know, and I think there is also a movie theater you can warp in, so that might be how you could just sit down and watch the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. More games should have entire movies in them.
Agreed. And Vinegar Syndrome does fantastic work, I have to say, so great label to partner with.
In the wake of finding that, I was like trying to find other games that do that, and The Darkness has... What is it? What is the movie In the Darkness?
Oh, what is it? Some noir film, isn't it?
I don't remember.
Like
I don't remember.
Max Payne had some stuff, but that was all fake.
Yeah, all the Remedy stuff is typically their own in-house stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like there have been some...
There has to be others. I tried to find a list of games that have whole movies in them, and The Darkness was the only thing I could come up with.
I feel like they're usually in the public domain or something, or
it was The Man with the Golden Arm.
In The Darkness?
In The Darkness. It was The Man with the Golden Arm, a full episode of Flash Gordon, the film The Street Fighter with Sonny Chiba, and cartoon shorts of Popeye and Gabby.
Okay.
All right.
Also, apparently To Kill a Mockingbird is in...
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yes, I started to say that, and I wasn't sure that was right.
Huh.
I think High on Life is all right.
That's kind of my feeling on it, too.
It's not bad, which, like, its placement on Game Pass feels pretty appropriate.
Yeah.
For how hit or miss it could be for a lot of people, I think trying it on Game Pass is a good way to go.
It does seem to have some very divisive reactions. I mean, even for people who like Rick and Morty, some people just don't seem to think this game is funny at all. Like, I don't think your Roiland association is unimportant, but it is possible, even if you are a Roiland fan, maybe this won't hit for you, or maybe it will. It seems all over it's sense of humor. Humor is incredibly specific to the individual.
Yeah, when we streamed it the other day, the reactions in chat were like straight 50-50. Either like, okay, I'm on board with this, or like, fuck this.
This is the most annoying thing in the world,
I do think if you do not like that, if you do not like the Morty or Rick or that type of kind of halting delivery, that kind of improv-y halting delivery, then this is probably not for you.
No.
Because that is kind of the delivery of almost every character, maybe barring some of the other weapons. That kind of like, hey, what are we gonna do? What are you gonna shoot me? Like that. Yeah. That kind of which I don't mind. Again, I also enjoy Rick and Morty, but I think the pace of Rick and Morty, the edited pace, they can get away with a lot more faster.
A 23-minute episode is a lot different than a 10-hour game.
That's right. Packed in, right? With just a lot of stuff. So, High on Life, out now. It's on Game Pass. It's $60 if you're looking for it on the PC, or if you don't have Game Pass on Xbox One. Do you know, like, is this slated
You mean Xbox Series X?
Sorry, yes. Xbox Series X and Xbox One.
The family.
And the family. Do you know if this is slated to move on to anything else, like PlayStation?
I don't think they've said.
I would assume it will eventually.
Yeah.
After a little while there. Squanch Games.
Yep.
Squanch Tech.
I do think this is probably the most successful thing Squanch Games has made so far. I didn't really play Trover Saves the World. I watched a little of it. I wasn't super into it. I thought that Rick and Morty VR thing was kind of nothing. This feels like a pretty fleshed out game at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. It is definitely a full thing.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it wraps up, honestly. I want to see what happens with the old Gatlians.
It does feel like they are telegraphing every twist in like the most obvious way possible, but I think that's also part of the joke.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to be right back, and we're going to talk about Forspoken. Stick around.
This week's show is brought to you by Bespoke Post and their monthly box of awesome. We've had Bespoke Post here on the show before, and just in case you missed out on those ads previously, they give you, on a month-to-month basis, a box of awesome. What is in your box of awesome? That can be any number of different things. Items that are useful to your life, things you didn't even know you needed. I've gotten a number of things from Box of Awesome, including a shirt from a brand called Line of Trade that has become one of my coziest, most comfortable shirts that I own, and also some very big knives. It's not all knives, it's not all shirts. There is a wide variety of products here in the Box of Awesome, and 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is from a small, up-and-coming brand. To get started, go to boxofawesome.com, and you will take a quick quiz that lets them help tailor your Box of Awesome just for you. There's a new box every single month, a wide variety of categories, and each box is valued at around $70, but you, the consumer, only pay a fraction of that price. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel any time. If you want to get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com, enter the code NEXTLANDER at checkout. That is boxofawesome.com, code NEXTLANDER for 20% off your first box. Thanks, Bespoke Post.
And we're back, and we've got a game coming up here for 2023. Alex Navarro, you have played it. There was a demo out.
New releases.
That's right. 2023 is soon. This game is almost about only a month out, month and change.
January.
It's preposterous.
Forspoken.
Yes,
we saw a lot of this leading up in press conferences and stuff.
Yeah, this has kind of been Square Enix's big original project that is not the next Final Fantasy, kind of in their hopper.
Yeah, although it kind of basically is. I mean, it's essentially the Final Fantasy 15 team.
Yes, it used to be known as Business Unit 2, and now they are Luminous Productions.
Yeah, but this is their first full original game.
Yes, and so, there's been some chatter about this game and the way it was promoted. I'd say somewhat similar to how High on Life was promoted, in that the tone of the trailers, I think, was kind of off-putting to some people. The amount of, kind of Whedon-esque snarky dialogue happening maybe was a little Grating. I don't know.
Joss Whedon must answer for his crimes against the culture.
I think he will elude capture, unfortunately. But yeah, so I kind of went into this. They had us come out. There is a demo that is out on the PlayStation Store right now, but that is not what I played. What I ended up playing was like a straight up like 3 chapters of the game that had story stuff and kind of everything that goes on. The demo that is out is a very simple, like, hey, go do these combat sequences and kind of explore this section of the world, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any story in that demo other than kind of a like cut together, just sort of like sizzle reel of some cinematic scenes, right?
And I kind of get it because they want people to just at least get a feel for what the gameplay is and the different magic and spell types. But honestly, seeing the way the story is delivered, I think was actually pretty important to me not hating what I was playing, because I was very worried going into this demo that it was going to irritate the shit out of me based on the trailers I had seen. And other than a few lines that I think are kind of groaners, I didn't really have that experience with it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a modern context, you could see how whoever cut trailers for that thing might want to lift out the snappy, quippy, here's what people like these days parts.
This is what the kids like, right?
Right. When in fact, like the ratio of that stuff to other stuff might be extremely low.
Yeah. So it's a real, like, you know, kid in King Arthur's court type thing where you are Frey, a woman from New York who is having a very bad time, from what I understand, and is trying to get out of the city and kind of restart her life elsewhere. And somewhere in the midst of that, she comes across this magical bracelet, cuff, whatever you want to call it, in a pawn shop, and it starts talking to her and also opens a portal to a magical realm that is not of Earth.
Does she buy it?
I don't know if she buys it, if she just puts it on to try it. They don't show... So I didn't play the first chapter, which is, I think, where all the setup is. I played chapters 2, 3, and 5, which are kind of her getting her feel for like what's going on in the world, and then the last chapter was like moving your way toward a significant boss from some of the stuff that happened in the story before.
Okay.
What you got? Questions? What do you got?
So this young adult is teleported from New York to Fantasyland. The bracelet
is British,
Stephen Merchant-esque, and but speaks English.
Speaks English, and they do remark upon that of like, how do you speak English? How do all these other people speak English? And he's just kind of like, I don't know.
Magic.
Throughout the universe, throughout the different dimensions, languages have a tendency to be very similar. So I don't know. It seems like they're kind of hand waving it.
And the bracelet imbues the magic. Would you say you didn't say Faye? Did you? What's the
Frey?
Frey imbues the magic to Frey. Like she doesn't have magic of her own. She is okay. So
no, you show up in this kingdom, and it is the stop me if you've heard this one before. There is a darkness spreading throughout the land that is infecting everything.
Oh boy!
Why is this the default thing we're all doing now?
Why darkness? Darkness
like,
has always
started
been there.
that? But like the spreading, you know, cancerous kind of like infection of darkness on everything.
What do they call it here? The break?
The break.
So, like, okay, let me ask you this. Do you remove the break by doing certain things, and does it kind of, like, disintegrate into the air? And
heal the land?
Heal the land? Okay.
So you do a little bit of that, but honestly, a lot of... So here's the thing. The way they set it up is that the break has kind of ravaged this world. There are a handful of cities left where people are able to survive, but eventually the break kind of comes for everything. Mm-hmm. And when you're infected with... If you're a living thing that is infected with it, you kind of turn into a monster.
Bummer.
But Frey seems to be able to move pretty freely between different areas and doesn't seem fully affected by the break. So, and a lot of people are like, I don't understand why you're not being fucked up by this.
Okay, I do have an actual question.
Mm-hmm.
Does the bracelet understand the mechanics of bringing Frey from New York into this world? Like, is it aware of what is going on there?
It's a little unclear. The bracelet kind of alludes to the fact that it does not fully understand everything going on.
Okay.
It doesn't know it is from this realm or from somewhere else, but it does know that it was the thing that opened the portal that led you here.
But I was hoping we get some like bracelet commentary on hanging out on a pawn shop shelf for the last decade, or
he does comment about that,
like the plumber that owned me before you, or whatever.
But he's not like recruiting heroes to come.
Doesn't seem like
it. Okay. And it seems like I'm gonna just shot in the dark, shot in the break here.
A shart in the dark.
A
shard in the dock.
A shard in the dard.
Yeah,
it's worth two in the hand. Yes.
I don't think that's an episode title.
No,
that he can't just return her back to New York.
He doesn't seem like either he's able to or wants to. It's not, again, it's sort of a can't or won't. It doesn't say. So
like she's probably on some path to do this, or maybe she's the only one who can.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you eventually, like in the demo I played, you end up in a human city, or what appears to be a human city, and you're kind of talking with some people, and they're kind of giving you the lowdown on everything that has happened so far. And they are constantly remarking on your weird accent and your weird clothes and all that. But so once you actually get into the meat of the game, it is an open world environment. There are things spread throughout the air, like the map of, optional objectives and like rest zones and things like that. But it seems like whenever you get to a main story thing, you are kind of, there maybe are some alternate paths, but you are kind of just, you are moving toward an objective.
Okay.
In the open world, or they like port you into dungeons or cities?
There are port dungeons, but there are also areas in the open world, it seems like. And so the combat is focused on a couple of different things. You have what effectively is like weapon magic. The one they had in the demo I played was only one type, which is, I think, the purple magic. It's all color-coded. And that is where you basically shoot various kinds of projectiles out of your hands.
Do you need to know the colors? Recognize the color? Like, are there, hey, this person is bathed in red, you should use green magic on them?
This seems like a game that will have a lot of accessibility options, so I assume there will be some kind of colorblind option for people.
Okay, man.
They think they said there were like 5 different colored magic types.
Okay.
The other kind is spells, which is more like support magic. There's like the ones they showed me, like one you just like whip a giant tendril around and knock everyone around you. There's one where you basically can like put down a plant drone that shoots bullets at things. There's a few, like they showed like 4 or 5 of the ones that were available in the demo that I played.
Okay.
And the combat is pretty frantic. Like it's a game that is a mixture of traversal and heavy combat. And so she has like magic parkour. Mm-hmm. She can kind of run up walls and bounce off things and dodge and weave around stuff.
I enjoy what I came to think of as these sort of like Chuck Taylors made out of light that appear around her feet when she runs up walls and stuff. They're just kind of like magic tennis shoes, sort of.
It's the one thing she won't change out of when they give her fantasy costume. She's like, nope, these kicks have been with me forever. I'm not getting rid of them. And then there are also, like, obviously there's a skill tree, there's other magic types you can unlock. There are also these buffs you can do that are, they're like runes that you paint on your fingernails, and you get different designs over time.
I love that. I love that you, like, equip different buffs by changing your nail polish.
The funny thing is that Frey says, like, I'm not a nails person, but if this is going to be good for me, then I'm going to become a nails person. But yeah, so it seems like there's a decent amount of variety there. There weren't a ton of different enemy types in the demo that I played, but again, it's pretty early in the game from what I can tell. But the combat had challenge to it. Like, not terrible, but it was challenging. And, I fought through a couple of boss encounters and some bigger encounters, and, I had to think on my feet and had to dodge around a lot, but it's pretty frantic, and I would say reasonably fun.
Kind of 20,000 foot question here. What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Like, why? What are you, like, I know you said you got to stop the break or stop the darkness, but like, how? What is her,
well,
like,
her goal is to
day-to-day?
get home.
What is the most common icon on the map is what you're asking.
Yeah.
So what I saw other than the rest areas, which are just like little inns you stop into and recharge your health and pick up some items, it seemed like there were a decent amount of like challenge dungeons you could go to.
Okay.
But the real thing is she's trying to get home. There are people in the world who at least are making illusions that they will try to help her do that, but they need her help first
to do the thing.
It's a video game quest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like go. And so is there, did you encounter a big bad that is in charge of the break or the darkness, or like some
the way
embodiment of this thing?
The way the world seems to be split up, it has kind of a horizon thing going on, which is to say that the society itself has kind of broken out into some different sections, and there are these different warlords that kind of run.
Okay, so you're doing favors for...
Yeah, but also like some of them seem like antagonists. I can't tell how many of them are villainous versus just kind of pissed.
Okay.
They only showed one of them in the demo that I played, the first one that you encounter. But like the first town you go to is ruled by a council of 4. And one of them's like a real like Grima Wormtongue shithead type that seems like fully in the employ of the shithead warlord. And the other 3 are just kind of afraid and don't know what they're doing. So I don't really know exactly like how this is all divvied up. But the person you are going to go fight, I didn't end up finishing the final chapter because I was there for like 2.5 hours, seems to be that first warlord witch lady that you encounter.
Okay, so... it sounds like you're basically trying to figure out a way to return back, and in doing so, you're going to be helping people fight the darkness or the break. Okay.
It's a mutually beneficial thing.
Yeah, win-win for everybody, except for the break or the darkness. Okay.
And all the people who died, yes.
And all the people who are turned, there's no way to turn them back, they just die.
Well, so there's an illusion that some people who are infected maybe aren't fully turned, but a lot of the people you see running around in the environment are just zombies, and you just have to fight them.
And they just die.
They just die.
You get a horse?
So that's the thing. I don't think so, or at least not in what I played.
I started to say it during the stream of the demo we did the other day, like... It feels like you're going to get, like, just like I said with the magic shoes, like you're going to get like a magic hoverboard or something at some point. Like if you get a means of rapid conveyance, it will be something that ties into your weird bracelet shit.
Magic motorcycle?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be very in line with Final Fantasy 15. Magic, a magic Cadillac.
Oh,
well, no, they moved on to 16 at this point. You know, it's all fucking Game of Thrones shit now.
Well, no, but I mean, this is the same team.
I know.
So, you're excited to play when it comes out in January?
I mean, I went from thinking I was not going to like this game at all to feeling like, okay, I want to try this out. I want to see what the final game is like. I want to, give it some time because I did have fun with what I played, and it feels like it is reasonably substantial in terms of production. Like, it's got good cutscenes. Like the acting is reasonably good. Not every joke lands, but there aren't. I didn't encounter a ton of them. Like it's not constantly barraging you with quips. Like the bracelet kind of cheerfully doesn't like you very much, or at least seems frustrated by you, and you are pissed off at it for a while because you don't want to be here. But they kind of get out of that dynamic relatively quickly, and they just kind of start figuring out ways to work together and things to focus on. So I appreciate that it does not seem like it is going to be a nonstop barrage of you and this person hating each other.
Do you think you will become a ruler of this land?
If not a ruler, then at the very least you will have regular access to it when they eventually bring you back to New York. I don't know, when the sequel happens.
That's the unavoidable question at the end of this kind of story, right? Does she go home, or does she choose to stay? And
is this a Narnia situation or a Magic Kingdom for sale sold situation where you will... Oh my gosh, she's the only one. I'm looking forward to it as well. It looked, from what I saw you play of the demo, more mechanically dense than I was expecting in terms of the spell mechanics and the combat.
There's a fair amount of game there, and I will say it seems like Luminous' whole thing is particle effects, and boy howdy, there are a lot of particle effects happening.
That is Forspoken, coming out near the end of January. Let's go into a game that is out currently. Brad Shoemaker, you have spent some time, in the Callisto Protocol.
Yes, probably all the time I'm going to spend. I finished it last night.
What are your thoughts?
Considered deleting it this morning, as I needed space on my PS5, which probably tells you. Man, I'm torn on that game. I was pretty into it last week at this time, and then got even more into it after that podcast, and then hit a point where it just kind of plateaus.
Okay.
And then the plateau starts ramping back downward.
Oh, okay.
I just felt, I feel like I was waiting for an escalation to occur that never came in that game. Like,
so you peaked early, you crescendoed earlier than you wanted.
Like, I got the last weapon 3 days ago, and it's exactly the generic weapon you probably think it is based on what you already have.
Okay, I can probably make an assumption, yes.
You never get anything else, Like, there's never any... Like, the enemies don't really change by the end of the game. The environments, with one exception, don't really change. Like, the story doesn't fully... I mean, the story kind of wraps up in about as predictable fashion as you think. I don't know. You're pretty deep in, it sounds like. You told me where you were before this, and I wouldn't say you're close to the end, but you're closer than I thought, so you've seen a good chunk of it. I think... Are you in stealth? You've done stealth.
I have done stealth, yes.
Okay, we said last week this isn't really a stealth game, even though it technically has stealth kills. You never get to use them.
I think I'm hopefully nearing the end of that part, if not at the end of it. I did not enjoy having to be in stealth.
Yeah, you get to a point where stealth is all but mandatory, and where before it's kind of impossible.
And it feels a little clunky, and it feels like you just game it in ways where you're trying to get instant kill prompts by like kind of shimming around to get the right prompts to come up, where you're like, this is silly, just I have to be like 3/4 of the way behind them or to their side, even though it almost turns into stealth in the way that the stealth is not as good as, but like Last of Us style, where you're like, okay, you're kind of doing this thing where you want to get instant kills on all these enemies. Otherwise, you will get overwhelmed.
You do not want to fight. You don't want to deal with the situation that arises when you make noise in those kinds of areas. I mean, I do feel like they are intentionally kind of trolling you with some of those enemy placements and how hard it is to get around behind those enemies. But you can do it. You just have to be incredibly meticulous, and I feel like that was on purpose.
My biggest issue so far, aside from some of the pacing and the split paths they will put you down for side paths and main path, are I feel like there's an inconsistency with the rules of combat and the game. Like there are points where I'm still this long into it, not sure if I'm going to break a character out of an animation or if they're going to just hit me through the animation. I whiff sometimes with a swing where it feels like I shouldn't whiff on a swing. Sometimes he lunges forward to connect, like it locks in and it'll like lunge forward. And sometimes he just whiffs and I get hit, or we both take damage. So that's, to me, is probably my big, even with the stealth stuff, you're not supposed to make noise, and it's like, I can stomp all I want. I can do things that make so much noise. Even the stealth kill sounds like it is like a cacophony, but heaven forbid I make the wrong type of noise for the stealth part.
What the game arbitrarily considers loud enough to trigger enemies and what it doesn't is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, so
like the stealth kills themselves are incredibly loud.
So loud. There's screaming and moaning,
and yet you can do one right behind another one of the enemies, and they don't even flinch.
So those kind of inconsistencies with the combat, especially because you get upgrades later, but you're still fairly fragile, especially in a group setting.
I mean, okay, so have you done what is kind of the closest thing it has to a boss fight yet on that moving platform?
No, I think that's what I'm up to.
Oh, you're
I think I am on the... I just turned on the power for said moving platform, so I think that's what I'm up to.
There is some shit. I mean, we talked about this last week, that there are some like rough combat encounters in terms of getting overwhelmed and you're not really nimble enough to deal with it.
Oh, yes.
There is some shit in the back third of that game. Like there is an enemy that can kill you, that kills you in one hit. If it touches you, you're dead, regardless of health. And it can also kind of catch up to you behind you, and you can't really tell how close it is, but there's no quick 180 in this game, so you just have to kind of slowly spin the camera around and try to run away from it. And I don't know how many times I died to it, just it grabbing me because I thought I had put enough distance between it and me to get away and like reload a weapon or whatever, or I got hung up on the environment for a split second, and that was enough for it to close the distance, and then I had to do a whole fight again. Like, it's just, ugh.
So that's rough.
There aren't that many of those, but they're not great. And then the last boss is like an even worse version of that. I thought, like, dude, I don't even want to get into it. I was very clearly on the last boss last night, and I was like, okay, I really want to see how this ends. And then I also thought about turning it off. Like, I genuinely, after 6 tries on the last boss, I was like, maybe I'll just turn this off. But then I powered through it. There's some rough shit in there.
The game it's weird. I mean, maybe I'm missing something in terms of the communication of your powers, but or your let's say your grabby power, I forget what that grip.
The grip
power. I still don't know how to read that bar on the back of your head all the time. Like that bar is tiny, and then when you're in the aim, it gets big, and then I just use it until I run out. I'm never really I just kind of internalize how many grips I can do because I'm not really sure how to read that bar. Also, when you're crouched, it's on his neck. You can't really even see the bar.
Yeah, yes, that is like there's a lot of oversights with this game, and that's a major one. That when you are crouching and aiming down sights, you can't see your health or grip either clearly at all.
Which, you can kind of get through a decent amount of it. It's not that big a deal, but like I said, you're kind of fragile, and sometimes the encounters, if you're playing an encounter for the third time, you kind of have okay, I'm going to grip this guy into the wall, then I'm going to shoot this guy, and I'm going to try not to let anybody get behind me, because once they're behind me, you're kind of done. Like you said, Brad, you can't really run away because you're too damn slow to ever run away from it. You'll just get hit in the back twice, if you're trying to run away. Enemies will turn you around, which is really a pain in the butt. They will grab you and just turn you around so your back is now facing an enemy. The situational stuff can be really tough. Enemies in corridors can be really rough. We showed it, and they've showed it in promos, so I don't think this is a spoiler, but enemies, the one thing they do change up about after 30% into the game maybe, is enemies have a chance to mutate, and mostly they 100% will mutate later on in the game by having tentacles pop out of their stomach. And it's okay, because if you shoot them in the tentacles, they usually go down in one hit. So that's okay. So that's nice. But also, they stand close to you in a way that sometimes it's just hard to get that shot in those tentacles. You almost want the character to just have a thing where he just shoves a gun in their stomach and just shoots, because you have to aim down the sights, and you just wind up hitting them in the head or shoulders, and you're like, there are a number of times I have just let out an exasperated, like, come on, I definitely hit him. Yes. And they're just mutating.
Okay, well, you're really going to have fun with the last several hours of this game, because it's that in a bunch of quasi-boss encounters where you don't have time to do things like heal or change weapons. Okay. Without just dying. So,
yeah, the weapon changing is pretty slow intentionally, I think. And also the checkpointing's not good. The checkpointing in some areas are like, they'll put you before a cutscene or a long elevator ride or something, and you're like, really? Like, I'm going to do this thing like 4 times. Just checkpoint me a little bit closer.
Yes.
I've had to go in. They don't even checkpoint you after you do major upgrades on that station. Yep. So there are points where you're like, oh my gosh, this is the 5th time I'm selling all this stuff to buy this upgrade to do this encounter. Mm-hmm. Like, just checkpoint me after I get done with the machine.
Again, buckle up. Definitely more of that stuff. I still like it. Yeah, you're kind of getting to where I got to. Like, I wanted to finish it because it felt like it had enough promise. Like, they tease that things are going on here, and they are, like in the prison, like, why is there an outbreak? Who's running this place? Like,
did you get the trophy for the secret rooms where I found at least 2, and then a trophy popped up, and I looked at the name of the trophy, and I was like, still don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Is that the Callipolis trophy? Yes. I missed one of those. I looked that up afterwards, because I'm missing 2 trophies, which are that one and the Beat It on Hard.
Oh, there's a Beat It on Hard? Okay.
And I would have gotten the Platinum. I can go back and get the other one and get that.
Wait, are you playing on Hard?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I can go back and get that other secret room, though, off of a save. But, like, that's the thing, though. They set up little bits of, like, oh, is there some secret society here? Like, who's doing, what's going on here? There's, like, a guy behind the guy here, right? Like, clearly. And, like I said, all of that stuff just plays out in the most straightforward, predictable way imaginable. Like, there's just not really anything there to sink your teeth into in terms of reveals or the truth of things or the storytelling. There's a little bit, like, the acting is good, like, yeah, Karen Fukuhara and Josh Duhamel do most of the lifting there, and, like, it's not,
I liked your buddy. I like Ian.
Elias.
Sorry, I like Elias.
Well, I mean, lifting on the heavy story stuff. The what is going on here? Like, what is everybody's agenda?
Yeah, Elias is a prisoner. He doesn't really know, right?
Yeah, he just wants to get the fuck out of there, and then, like, I was just waiting for something more on every front, like gameplay wise. Environmental design. I mean, there is one shift in environment right at the end that is kind of cool because the game looks so good, but it's like a little out of left field and feels kind of incongruous with the rest of the game. Like, I was hoping for more story, like more anything really. Like, it had a slow ramp, like we said last week. Like, it's kind of weird to get your head around the combat, but once you do, it's kind of fun despite its problems. But I was just waiting for like a game that I never got at the end.
How far down the upgrade tree were you able to make it by the end? Were you like percentage-wise of
you absolutely cannot buy everything. Like I obsessively not only collected and sold like every valuable item I could find, but also a ton of my ammo and health just to mainline upgrades. Even doing that, I upgraded basically all the passives on every weapon.
Okay.
But I don't think I got one of the kind of, every weapon has like an ultimate alt fire mode.
Yeah.
I got one of those.
Okay.
And I got almost every, like, more ammo, more damage, better stability. Like, I got almost all of those across all the weapons. And I almost maxed the grip and got most of the baton upgrades.
Because they really escalate. The price goes like 300,
yeah. Well,
then 2,700.
They start throwing items at you that are worth $1,000 each.
Pristine.
I think I got at least one that was worth 1,500. Like,
oh my gosh!
Really start throwing currency at you, but you can't get everything. You cannot get everything in one playthrough.
So that's another thing with the rules of this game. They have those security bots, which give you pretty decent rewards for killing them. I forget what they are, like CompuCore, let's say.
I think it's a decoder that comes out of those robots.
But you come across mostly malfunctioning robots quite a bit, and you're like, dude, just stomp the hell out of these things and grab those cores. Like, why? There was one room that had like 5 of them in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gold here. And you just walk by them, you don't do anything. I did find if anybody, I was worried about this. There are environmental kills which you can do. You can still stomp the enemies to get their creds or whatever, even if they're impaled on spikes and stuff. All you got to do is break them open somehow.
Or just hit them with the baton.
Yeah, hit them with the baton.
I enjoyed the spike walls. Like, there are fun things about the combat in this.
Yeah.
Like, especially once you upgrade the grip and you're just throwing enemies left and right into spikes and into each other.
Yes.
Like, when you fully upgrade the velocity on the grip, I think it's random. I think it'll just proc a kill on an enemy when you fling them sometimes. You can literally just fling one enemy into another and he'll just explode over the other enemy. I mean,
the environments are ridiculous. There are basically energy turbines that are just meat grinders.
Yeah,
that just turn on.
Very video gamey.
And they just the enemies just get chewed up in there. But by that same token, there's maybe, I don't want to sell it too short, but there's maybe, in what I'm up to, maybe 5 enemy types, like total.
Yeah,
like,
you've seen almost everything at this point. Except for basically the one boss-ish.
Okay.
You fight an enemy that seems like it's a boss, and then later you're like, oh, they're just going to start throwing these in with regular enemies now. But that's the one-hit kill one I was talking about, but that's it. Like, there's that and like a last boss, and that's basically all you're going to see. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with this whole thing, is that it just feels like it plateaus, and I was waiting. It felt like it was going to build to a crescendo that never came, basically. And like, it just kind of ends, and like, there are some reveals, but they're not earth-shattering really, and like, I just wanted more out of the back half of the game.
One final question here, because I am going to finish this. Is there any way to not get hit by those weird snake heads that come out of the pods where you have to mash triangle?
You can shoot them before you get in range of them. You just have to look for them.
Okay, so because there are pods out there and they look like the other pods. Like, you don't stomp all the little cocoons, right?
No, definitely not. Those things also respawn when you move away from them. There's some weird shit in this game. Like, I backtracked to, I've talked about random parts of this game resetting.
Mm-hmm.
I backtracked like 3 minutes to a vendor station because I'd picked up a bunch of stuff, and I was like, I should go sell that because inventory space is a problem. There was a room with like 5 enemies that I had cleared. I went through that, got back to the vendor station, sold everything, moved back through. That entire encounter reset itself.
Oh, wow.
As I backtracked through there. Like, all the enemies repopulated, all the exploding pickups that I had used to kill them with, everything was back to default.
I only had one of those where there were some frozen enemies, let's say, and I destroyed the entire set of frozen enemies, and then I turned around and they were all back. Just frozen again, and I just walked on, kept on going on. My number one complaint about that game is the thing I brought up about 3 times now previously is the side paths are too long. The stuff like the missable stuff where you're going down a side path go on too long, where you're not sure if you're on a main path or a side path, and I feel like that really frustrates me because the backtracking. The animations are slow. The sidling through a crack in the wall is slow. Going down a ladder is kind of slow. And I do the video game thing of like, all right, I'm going to go forward until I hit a thing that looks like it's the main path. And they always have a thing that's like, oh, you're going to open this door, you're going to go through this crack, or go down a ladder. But, sometimes those paths will lead to a chest that has like a $500 thing or something in it. You want that. It's just, I'm always scared I'm going to jump down the ledge that's too high to jump back up. You know what I mean? Like that's probably my biggest thing now. And it's mostly just a time thing because stuff moves pretty slowly. It's a very deliberate game. It asks a lot of your time. There's no real, like, some things are forced walking too, which also take a long time.
Yeah, I feel like they're at least decent about making it clear which one is the story path, because it's generally the one that's like, oh, you need a key card to go this way, or gotta fire up this generator to open this, or whatever. But yeah. Did you get the skunk? Did you backtrack to get the skunk gun?
So I remember you having it in the thing you played. So I remember you mentioning, hey, this felt like a thing I could have missed. Yeah. So I was on my toes the entire time looking for it.
So I'm guessing I've read some stuff that makes it seem like that's one of those things where if you backtrack in that spot, you can get it early, but then they'll just give it to you by default later, which is pretty survival horror tropey now that I think about it. Honestly, this sounds weird, but I feel like the big revelation of this game for me is that I'm just some kind of big survival horror mark and didn't realize it for the last 25 years. Mm-hmm. Like, ever since Resident Evil 1, like, I went nuts for that game, and, like, I have played a shitload of, like, this came out, and I couldn't stop playing it despite it being kind of mid in some ways. But, and, like, I'm super excited for this Dead Space remake and this RE4 remake, and, like, big budget survival horror, please just keep making it, I guess, is what I'm here to say.
Well, I think this game is... It's fun and rough. It's fun and it has rough spots.
Yeah, and then like you finish it and like I let the credits roll to see if there's anything after the credits. Not only is there not, but it dumps you back to the title screen with zero.
Wait, no New Game Plus?
No, they've already said that's coming in 2 or 3 months.
Oh, okay.
But like no acknowledgement at all that you had finished the game. No nothing. No skin unlocked. No like.
Okay.
Like I was thinking about like how much Resident Evil Village does when you finish that game. Like it's an insane amount of extra stuff opens up that gives you incentives to replay the game. Like there's a whole challenge list of like pretty broad activities that you do to get like all these weapons that aren't even available in the base game. It's crazy.
Not
how much there is to do in a game like that after you finish it. And it just feels like by the standards of this genre in particular, like for there to be literally nothing to do after you finish it.
It's a little wild.
It was pretty underwhelming after I had already been kind of underwhelmed by the end of the game.
So not that they are the same game, but the pedigree is there. I don't know if you remember, Dead Space also had that issue when you finished it. They put in a New Game Plus later.
Oh, wow. Okay, sure.
If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and people can correct me, but I remember being pretty deflated because I wanted to go play that game with all of my suit upgrades from the beginning, and I believe they put that in later for Dead Space 1.
Yeah, after I finished this, I kind of went and started reading about that remake a little more because I was like, well, that didn't fully get where I wanted it to go, but at least there's something else next month. And like, I hadn't been keeping up with that thing because I knew I was going to play it anyway. But like, I'm kind of surprised how much they're doing to it. That's not just remaking that game. Like, it sounds like they're making the ship like one giant location that you can kind of roam now instead of it being much more like broken up and level based. Yeah, with the trams like it used to be. Like you can go outside the ship now to get around it. You can like straight up spacewalk outside the ship to get to different places. Like they're doing some like random AI director enemy placement type stuff. Like it sounds like a fairly substantially different game than the original Dead Space. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Callisto Protocol, $60 or $70, depending on where you get it. Available on the PlayStation family, Xbox family, and on the PC. Any news on how it's performing on the PCs? Have they patched out a lot of stuff?
I haven't seen. I mean, they've been putting out patches and tweeting about like, hey, we got more updates coming. I haven't seen a lot of talk about how the PC version is doing.
Okay.
After that extremely rough launch.
Available now. We're going to do a hard shift from Callisto Protocol to a very different game, Melatonin.
I mean, it's a game that's timing focused in its own way. It's just it's a rhythm game, so it has to be.
I'm just going to say out of the gate here because I don't have too much to say about Melatonin, so I'll get it at the top. I found Melatonin to be pretty tough, demanding.
Okay.
And it's, but I was also playing on the Steam Link, and I'm just going to chalk it up to not being able to calibrate my lag.
I don't think that's the ideal way to play it. I think you want to try to avoid as much lag as possible.
Yeah. Alex, how are you enjoying Melatonin?
Quite a bit. So we played this a few months ago when those Steam demos were out for the summer. And this is a rhythm game, I'm going to say, in the style of a Rhythm Heaven type game, where it is a series of like mini sequences where you're getting different types of music and rhythm, though all the music seems to kind of hew to the lo-fi beats to study and chill to kind of genre. But your character is, as far as I can tell, an insomniac who is having weird melatonin dreams. If you've ever taken melatonin, you will know that sometimes you get some very vivid, not always the most pleasant dreams, though the ones he's having here seem like they are not particularly stressful, other than the timing aspect of it, because during those dreams, that is where you are playing the rhythm game. And so each level is a different dream. It's about dream about eating, shopping, technology, getting more followers on social media, etc. And they give you a little tutorial setup of like, okay, we're going to have an A button that sort of lines up with where you're supposed to match the music. And they'll show you kind of beat by beat what the song is going to be like. And then when they get you into the real thing, that A button prompt disappears and you are essentially just trying to time to the music as you hear it.
Right. Yeah, I think very Rhythm Heaven, like you said, or people have done this before. I like the aesthetic.
Yes.
And I like the vibes that it's going with.
It has a very not monochromatic, but it's a lot of blue and purple, and it's very cartoonish looking, very cute. And I've found so far the rhythm, I mean, again, I've only played like an hour and a half of it. I have found it to be, even on the hard mode, those early levels are not super challenging. If you played a decent amount. No, they're not. If you played a lot of rhythm games, they're not. If you're a little less rhythm inclined, I feel like there's a decent challenge level there. But it's all engaging. Like, even for someone like me who has played a shit ton of games like this, I feel like I'm having a good time and I'm getting into like a good laser brain focus on it when I'm playing.
It's just the donut goes up in the air and then it's hidden behind the cloud, and then
but you just got to count. It's just like clunk. There you go. On the cl is when you need to hit it.
I do need to hit it on the cl.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed what I've played of it. I need to play it locally on the PC and not on my Steam Link, I think.
Yeah.
They do have some calibration settings, though it is more of a, hey, did this feel and look right to you? If not, then dial in in milliseconds what you think your lag is going to be.
Yeah. It wants you to experiment with it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. That is out on at the time of this recording. It is out tomorrow for $15.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty good. Again, as someone that wants more weird rhythm games in the world, the things it is paying tribute to, I want more of that.
Does it seem like it's short?
I can't really tell. I don't know how many worlds there are, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was not a super lengthy game.
Yeah, of course, I am $15. I mean,
yeah,
a nice price.
$15 according to their press release. They didn't have the price on Steam yet, and
there's a Switch version also.
TBD.
Yeah, it's not out yet.
No data on that. So yeah, Melatonin. Switch gears again here. Back on the horse for the wild hunt. Brad Shoemaker.
There's not a ton to say here. They put out that update for The Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
Stop me if you've heard this one before. I mean, it's got a performance mode and a graphics mode.
What is that? How does it look? Let's start with how it looks.
I didn't play a ton of it. Most of my time has been, and this is really the thing to talk about for me here, most of my time was spent trying to figure out how to get my saves to sync through GOG.
Okay.
From the PlayStation 4.
All right.
To the PS5 and Xbox Series X.
Did they?
It's kind of a fiddly process. But
okay, but you did get there.
I don't know. Do you remember when you played The Witcher 3 and it straight up shows like the game version that you saved under for each save?
No.
You don't remember that?
No.
Like, it's straight up when you scroll through your saves, it'll tell you which version of the game you were using.
No, I don't remember that.
So the last time I played this game, it was at version 1.10.
Okay.
This new update is version 4.0.
Jeez. Okay.
That tells you how much they have continued to work on this game.
Okay.
I don't know if the cross progression is new as of this update, or if that was in there before. That may have already been in there, actually. But I clearly have not played The Witcher 3 in 7 years almost.
It's been a while.
But anyway, yeah, you have to sign in each version, which requires going to their website on a computer. The thing I couldn't figure out is that it does not automatically sync your saves. You have to, like, if you have an old local save, you have to load it up in game and resave it.
Okay.
And when you make a new manual save, it will sync that new save up to the cloud. But I spent a while just like logging into different versions going, why are my saves not here? I synced, all these are logged in. What's going on?
Okay. And it'll sync up to their servers.
None of your old saves on the version you had all your saves on, at least on PS4, will sync up automatically. You have to go resave to force it to sync. Anyway, once I did that, I mean, performance seems to run quite smoothly at 60.
Okay.
They say they're using ray trace global illumination in the graphics mode, which I didn't have a lot of time to run around and look at, but
it was already a very pretty game. I'm kind of curious to see what it looks like. I'm actually, most curious to see what that Witcher 1 thing looks like. That's ways off.
Yeah, that'll be more interesting as kind of a new release. Like this does still look good for sure, and it runs very smoothly, but it also sort of does look like a 2015 game. Now that I get in there and play, like in my mind, like, oh man, Witcher 3 is like one of the best looking games ever made. And then I got back in there and I was like, oh, this still looks good, but kind of last gen good.
Where were you?
Last gen great, I would say.
Oh, you on the Xbox?
Saved? Which platform? I was playing on the Series X.
Okay.
From a save originally from the PS4. I want to load it up on the S also and see what the differences are.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But
Wild Hunts. It's a good game.
Still, I was saved in some Novigrad back alley, and I was like, oh man, this is a lot to come back to.
Do they, so you had it on the Xbox, it's not cross-buy clearly, but you had it on the Xbox. Are they selling it bundled with all the expansions at this point?
Yes.
You know? Okay.
Yes, it comes with everything now.
Okay, like some
for like $30,
edition?
I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like complete edition or whatever.
They're good. The DLCs are good.
Yeah.
The other thing you said you touched is the Crisis Core.
Yeah, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Isn't that the full title?
Yeah.
I believe.
Yes.
I mean, like, touched quite literally. I really didn't spend a ton of time with it. We're going to stream some of it this week, so I just wanted to, like, boot it up and look at it. It looks pretty good. You know, it's a port of a remake, I guess I should say, of a PSP game from 2008.
Yes.
So for a PSP game, it looks pretty good. I mean, they've redone kind of everything from what I can tell. It runs on Unreal Engine from, according to the opening credits.
I've seen a couple people who are big-time Crisis Core haters say that they have turned this into at least an acceptable game in this version.
Interesting. So yeah, I never played the original, so I can't speak to any gameplay differences, but like, I mean, it is not an amazing looker, but it definitely like is adequate by modern standards in terms of what they've done to the graphics. It kind of reminds me of Forspoken or the Final Fantasy VII remake or Final Fantasy 15, or I guess like kind of all of Square's action combat RPG games now, in that it's, you know, it's a third person hack and slashy kind of thing, but you pull triggers to activate modifiers for, it's like, oh, my face buttons do attacks unless I hold L1, and then it turns into a magic menu, and then I can cast Firaga, you know, or Thundara from the face buttons, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's got a slot machine rolling in the top left also that, like, when it hits different combinations, activates different modifiers in combat. I didn't spend a ton of time with it, but I just wanted to, like, poke at it before we fired up on a stream. It seems okay.
I want to say...
If you absolutely need to play every Final Fantasy VII product ever released.
You must. Trying to find the price on the consoles, but it looks like it's $50 to get you in the door.
Yeah, that sounds...
They have their other versions.
That sounds about right, and by right, I don't mean that's what it's worth, but more that's what's considered budget these days.
Right.
So this would have been $40 2 years ago. Anyway.
Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Yeah, we'll get into some more of that.
Zack.
In a live environment. Yes, it stars Zack. Soldier Zack, if you happen to.
Zack's back, baby. That is Crisis Core. We talked about The Witcher 3, the update for that, Melatonin, Callisto Protocol, Forspoken, and High on Life. Video games. Those are the video games for this week.
Games.
We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to talk about even more video games. The Game Awards happened. There were a lot of trailers. We've picked out some of our favorites. We're going to talk about it when we come back after this. And we are back, and so are the video games. Boy, howdy. The Game Awards happened. Jeff Keighley was hosting. Everyone who's anybody was there on
including
stage.
some people who were nobody.
Everybody had a turn at the Game Awards. We're mostly the Game Awards at this point are a vehicle for trailers, but there were some awards given out.
Yes, I tend to think of it as E3 December edition.
Yeah, it's a lot of announcements. They know it's the awards happen. A lot of them happen off camera.
That's not like, certainly no disrespect to winners of awards, but I feel like that's about as seriously as the show itself takes the awards. There's a little bit more of an emphasis on at least some of the big awards, but I watched the pre-show, which was like half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like half of the awards are concentrated into that pre-show, and they don't even read the nominees for a bunch of them.
So the Game Awards, every year, they kind of, I feel like, escalate in terms of their skew towards Hollywood, let's say.
Uh-huh.
This was maybe the most it has been. It was we're going to talk mostly about the content of the game announcements, but I will say the presentation was great. I thought the production and the whole thing seemed very professional and very well done. And
except for the couple of times it wasn't.
Where it's a live event, there were some things that happened at the end, let's say, and the beginning. I tuned out for a bit in the middle there and caught up on the ending of that show and the kind of stuff that happened near there. But I'll give it to him. I don't enjoy the Hollywoodification of that whole thing, but for what they were going for, I think they achieved it.
I have one question for you, gentlemen.
Okay, hit me.
How is wheeling Al Pacino out onto that stage to not know what the hell he's supposed to actually say, not a form of elder abuse?
I went from going, holy shit, they got Al Pacino, to muting it in embarrassment in like maybe 30 seconds.
So he knew what he was doing there. Al Pacino knew what he was doing.
Getting paid.
He was getting paid. He knew it. And you know what? I also shared that shared embarrassment and was like, oh, but mostly it was because
I know what they were going for, which is they were going for a Beatles on the Xbox stage moment or a Keanu on the Xbox stage moment of everyone goes apeshit for this, incredibly famous person. The problem is, in both those cases, those are people there who had an actual game to talk about, and even the Beatles, who didn't really know what they were doing on the stage, it was still so like gobsmacking just to have them there on a video game stage that it kind of overwrote the fact that they were just riffing for too long.
Yeah,
this was
in both of those
aimless.
cases. Yeah, I mean, in both of those cases, they had skin in the game, right? Kind of literally. And this was just, oh wow, this is, to be fair, about as famous a person as you can get in entertainment.
In Hollywood, particularly,
but it's just a famous person, like he was not there to promote a game or whatever.
So I think for me, tonally, it was about, this is a little bit in the weeds of the Game Awards and maybe a little more philosophical than video game, but it represented where they want to be, which is Hollywood acceptance of video games and Hollywood, big ticket Hollywood. And they were trying to say the performances and the actors and the people. My issue is the whole thing feels about 1 or 2 years from them being like, this show is amazing. It's finally hitting it. We're getting so much money. Thank you. And Jeff Keighley being like, I knew it. We're all here. All my Hollywood friends. And you're like, oh, you're not hosting next year, Jeff. Like you can, and what? Oh, no. We got Seth Rogen to host. It was fun when you did it, but now we're cheap big time. Like it feels like all the beautiful people are coming to the party and maybe everybody else gets the cheap seats. it was nice to see the awards given out to developers still and voice actors, but we're not that far away from famous people giving famous people awards at that show.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Keighley runs the whole thing, so he wants it to be that way. Like,
I'm saying like Keighley.
Well, I think that's the problem, though, right? It's not just that Keighley wants them that way. It's that Keighley has this perception that acceptance is still something that needs to be achieved. And the thing is, it doesn't. Like, he is operating from behind the starting line here because, in the end, Hollywood has already embraced video games. Like, celebrities are in video games all the time. Maybe not the top tier talent.
Some are.
But some are. And the thing is, if they're showing up at these shows and they're making fucking HBO series out of The Last of Us, like, what's left to achieve here? Honestly.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So, it's not the GDC Awards. It's a different beast.
No, because the GDC Awards are actual awards.
Yeah, and it's.
I think these
this
are
is
awards.
The Hollywood Foreign Press.
There are absolutely awards, though. I think it's more of a spectacle. This is more the Oscars. This is more the party and dress up and have fun. So my feelings on it are kind of tangential to, let's say, to the announcements that were there, right? Like as a vehicle,
just like the show itself, it is tangential to the announcents that are there.
I don't know. It doesn't really bother me because it feels like this has always been that thing, like even when it was the Spike TV Awards, he was still getting, Jessica Alba to come out and announce Dark Souls 2,
Yeah, nobody's teabagging on stage now, thankfully, but other than that, like, it is the same idea.
Like he has been wanting to get Hollywood celebrities involved in this thing for about as long as he's been doing it.
For sure,
he has.
I just think this one felt to me the closest, and almost maybe he's there. He's reached the top. Like, it felt like such a solid production, aside from a few weird live things. And he had the talent there on stage and presenting the awards, and the shots of the crowd and everybody in tuxedos and gowns clapping. And it's weird, to see these famous people clapping over a Fall Guys announcement. It's just there's a little bit of a disconnect. But shall we get into kind of the meat of what the Game Awards are? Yeah, and which is a bunch of announcements.
That's right.
Yes,
and trailers. Brad, why don't you? We've made lists here of kind of things that stood out to us. Why don't you start by going down yours, and we'll kind of just piggyback in there because I think we have a lot of overlap.
The biggest revelation of the night to me by far was that Ken Levine is actually making a video game.
Oh, Ken.
After how many years of talking about narrative Legos and like
2013 is when BioShock Infinite came out?
Yeah, I looked it up. It's 2014 is when he gave that GDC presentation where the phrase narrative Legos was first employed.
Because his studio was essentially like it was him and like a handful of people that came from Irrational.
Yeah.
And they were experimenting, is what he said.
That was the whole story, like BioShock Infinite kind of famously went over schedule and over budget, and then they essentially shut down Irrational afterwards, even though it was a big success. And then I think it was like 15 people. Yes, I did read the Wikipedia page recently. I think he only took like 15 people to start Ghost Story, and like it was like, we're going to do a smaller, more focused, like more narratively experimental project.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of radio silence since then, which has been, 8 years now or something?
Some talk of like BioShock development for movies and stuff. I feel like that's where I've seen Ken Levine pop up.
And I do remember being at some preview event like 3 years ago for something, I forget what, where one of the developers that was there milling around I was chatting with later was like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to go take a job at Ghost Story soon. And I was like, oh, are they actually making a game? He's like, yeah, there's a full game. Like they've got a thing going on. It's called Judas. Boy, does it look like BioShock.
Boy, does it look like BioShock.
Holy shit.
Fuck narrative Legos. We're just going to do that BioShock thing again.
So, I mean, look, the hype is a thing. Like, it's very easy to get swept up in a lot of grandiose language about, like, redefining video game narrative or whatever. But, like, Keighley said he went and had played several hours of this game prior to that trailer running. Yeah. And kind of did hype up and I've read some stuff elsewhere, a little bit of scuttlebutt about, like, it sounds like branching narrative is a big thing here, and like potentially in a deeper way than you have seen. I hope this is me half saying what it sounds like is being described, and also half what I hope it is, because again, they could be overpromising something that they will not deliver, or I could be inferring too much. But like the idea of that kind of game with much more significant choice that affects how things play out could be pretty exciting.
but
it can't just be another Bioshock.
Despite the content of that game, the messenger they sent out was Bioshock. I mean, the hands, the magic, the whole thing read very Bioshock.
It is definitely that flavoring.
I couldn't get a read on like what the cultural touchstones are in this world that is being created here. You know, like Bioshock, like everything's very Art Deco. You know, Infinite, like kind of very deep Americana kind of, you know, founding father worship type stuff. Like I couldn't quite get what the touchstone was for this
I
world.
don't know, yeah.
It doesn't seem like it has one, or at least they're showing it yet.
It's like fashion show. I don't know. It's like or dreamlike, you know. There's something surreal about most of the sets they showed.
There's one thing I want to point out here, which is that Bioshock Infinite was a fairly divisive game, I think, in terms of whether people liked it or not. And that was even in the discourse of 2013. There has been nearly 10 years of discourse evolution since the last time Ken Levine made a video game. I don't know if he's ready for where things are at right now and the level of scrutiny people are going to be applying to whatever this next thing is. Whether it's good or not, that's the thing. I have no judgment of it at this point. It could be great, but like that game left a lot of weird tastes in a variety of people's mouths, and I'm not really sure what lessons he actually took away from that, because he seemed to respond to some of the criticism of that game in not the most charitable way.
Remains to be seen. Judas have any kind of dates attached to it, or is it just?
I don't think so.
Judas?
No.
Okay.
Just wish list now.
I mean, this could be
kind of how every trailer ends now.
Yeah, where it's a click wish list. I mean, this could be a game that never comes out. I mean, it seems like it's playable, and people have said that even about games you thought were coming out. So
this is, I don't know. This certainly the level of production and what they showed is pretty advanced. Like
seems like it. I'm not saying
it seems pretty far along.
If I had to bet on it, I'd say it comes out. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Like, we don't know on the heels of like what is Ken Levine doing. I don't know. Judas. All right, let's move on. Brad, what else do you have on your list? This is another big one.
Death Stranding 2 is happening.
Certainly is. The kind of game everybody kind of knew was happening, but still kind of a little shocking to see it.
It was unclear.
Yeah, it was that kind of open question, because like Norman Reedus had sort of made it sound like they were doing another one, but he had that kind of detached actor speak sort of quote out there that sounded like it could just mean we're doing another game, not that we're doing another Death Stranding, but it is hella another Death Stranding.
Yeah, all that stuff with Elle Fanning they were teasing out, that is Death Stranding 2.
So
it is.
This one seemed to have a lot more at least in this trailer, right? This was what is her name? Silence?
Fragile.
I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. The Lea Seydoux character seems to be pretty central in this footage.
Baby's a kid. Baby's a kid
now. It seems like the baby has grown up a bit. The baby is not quite a toddler.
Not quite a man.
Not yet a toddler, not quite an infant.
Mm-hmm. Just based on what they showed here, which was not a great deal. Here's the thing. I think the ending, the very ending, the ending of Death Stranding is its second most successful part. Its first most successful part is that chapter 3 where it gives you almost no story and you are just running around rebuilding the world.
Yeah, I spent delivering the mail.
I spent like 30 hours in chapter 3 having a very good time, and then once the story got thick again, I kind of fell off of it, and I was like, maybe I got what I needed. That
story is a disaster in a variety of different ways. Like, say what you will about Kojima predicting some very specific things, and, you know, he's always pretty much on the money with that stuff. His storytelling is where I sometimes lose the plot with him, and I did in that game. That said, every criticism I've had of Death Stranding, all the frustrations I had with it, how pissed off I was by the end of that game, I'm kind of looking forward to playing this one.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I hate it, I'm still looking forward to it.
Yes. Oh, same here. Like, I also have a lot of problems with Death Stranding, probably very similar to your criticisms. But I want to see what he is putting out there. I also want to
know what lessons he learned from that first game.
Yeah, like the idea, like taking. I mean, Death Stranding is a pretty unique game, all things considered. Like the core of the gameplay is like certainly not something I had ever seen before. Like, the idea of iterating on that stuff is actually genuinely exciting. It's just looking at all these, this trailer is nothing but 4 minutes of cutscene footage because it's Kojima, and like just thinking again about potentially slogging through all that stuff to get to the carrying boxes around for 30 hours. I don't know.
I'm not convinced he did this trailer because it doesn't have the same rhythm that his trailers usually do. It's weird, but it doesn't have the same. Like, it doesn't feel quite the same as like the stuff he usually directs.
My understanding is he does all of his trailers. I would say this post credits sting of the Troy Baker villain, who I can never remember that character's name. What is it?
Higgs.
Oh,
as
like
in the Higgs boson particle.
Yes, like the particle.
Yeah.
That shot of him like kind of starting up a music video with a weird sci-fi guitar.
You're right. That part does.
I mean,
it feels extremely Kojima.
He's got a credit that says edited by Hideo Kojima at the end of that trailer. So I assume
maybe he just went for a slightly different rhythm here, but yes, okay, fair enough. I'm curious. I will need a primer on Death Stranding too, because I don't even know why that Troy Baker character is back in the game. I don't know what's going on. I would have loved to have been done with him because he was the weakest part of that whole thing.
I want to just see.
That's not even a diss on Troy Baker. It's that character is not interesting at all.
It's a weird. The whole thing. The surprise Death Stranding was a weird game.
Yeah. Bring back Mads Mikkelsen, for God's sakes. If we're going to bring anyone back from the dead.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
Mads was the best thing in that game.
Who knows? That game also without a date. So, Brad, moving down. This one was maybe the biggest shocker on your list here. I'm
torn about the next two. Like in my descending order of newsworthiness, is Hades 2 or Armored Core 6 bigger? I'm not sure.
Hades 2.
I think for some it's gonna, there's an Armored Core base out there that is turned on.
And it's been a very long time since they made an Armored Core game. Okay, now we're talking about Armored Core. Let's just talk about it.
Talk about Armored Core.
I don't have much to say because they announced Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, but I don't know that I've ever played an Armored Core game.
I don't think I've ever played an Armored Core.
I know Austin Walker, so I feel like I've played an Armored Core game.
Yes, I mean, Armored Core is famously like From Software's other big long-running franchise before Dark Souls blew up the world. But they haven't made one in a very long time. I did play a fair amount of Chrome Hounds.
Okay.
Which was the other mech game they made for Sega on the 360 that may or may not have been intended to kick off a franchise that never was.
Yeah.
Because they never made another one. Chrome Hounds had some rad ideas, though, that felt like they were kind of ahead of their time. But anyway,
it wasn't a great game, but it had some it had some notions.
Like some of the multiplayer and voice chat stuff they were doing in was that 2006, I think, when that game came out? Like that it was like kind of
near launch?
Yeah, 2005 is when the 360 came out. I think okay, now we're digressing about Chrome Hounds for too long. Yes, that was 2006. Armored Core is their big mech franchise, though. They just haven't made one in like a decade. I don't know. The big question for me is how much Souls leaks into this. Like, how much do they feel like they have a formula now that they have to stick to, especially since Elden Ring kind of became the biggest thing in the world?
I don't know. Are you going to have like an open world and a map that draws in? I really don't know enough about Armored Core to know what core gameplay elements need to be in an Armored Core game. I honestly don't know. Same. Like, we would have to grill Austin about what makes an Armored Core game to really truly know. I'm excited for people, and I'm excited if this game is good to get into Armored Core. But I don't know if I should be excited yet. I'm like in the. I'm excited through cultural excitement, like the community. Yes, I'm excited by proxy.
I mean, I'm excited for From to do something else, like
for sure. Yes,
not something else aesthetically, because Bloodborne is Victorian Souls and Sekiro is feudal Japanese Souls. They're like all the games they've been making since Demon Souls all kind of rotate around the same axis. So like this could be the first thing since that. that is like substantially different gameplay wise, or maybe it's Mech Souls. I don't know.
Mech Souls, Core Souls.
Hard to say. I had this part of the statement. Part of the statement they put out though says that the game will provide thrilling action that only mechas can provide.
Agreed.
I mean, I feel like we now know a lot of people that would just nod their heads silently to that.
Yes,
like,
yes. There's a lot of agreement out there about that.
Mm-hmm. It was a fun trailer.
Yes. I'm into it. Like, I might actually play an Armored Core game. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely at least like they have ascended to the level of sure I will try anything they put out at this point. But yeah, like again, do we get something that's very reminiscent of their recent games, or do they just make an Armored Core game? I'm not sure, but we'll find out next year. The other one you mentioned, Hades 2, a sequel.
My God.
A sequel.
That's
My God.
Yeah, Supergiant making their first sequel, which, you know, if I were running that studio and a game like Hades blew up in the way that Hades blew up, I probably also would think this was a good idea.
Look, if I was going to pick one from their oeuvre to do a sequel to, I probably would have gone with Pyre 2, but there is... even as a super fan of that game, I cannot make that business case. It does not exist.
So I never finished Hades. I never got to completion on it. I probably should. But yeah, this is kind of a big deal. I mean, Hades is
This seems like a different story, though.
Extremely popular game. It's a different story, but it's the sister of Zagreus.
Yes. What is her name?
Melano,
I think is how you say that.
So yeah, it's not DLC.
It's a new game.
It is a full-on Hades numeral 2.
That game was very good.
It looks great. Like what they showed of it, which was admittedly, a fairly limited trailer, like it showed off what you would want from a Hades sequel, I think. And I don't know. Like I said, there's no business case where this doesn't make sense for them. Like,
yeah. I wonder how far off it is, because they're doing early access again. Like it seems like they did early access extremely well for the first one in terms of.
And it was just about a year long, right?
Something like that. Maybe it might have been 2 years. I can't remember, but like I know they talked to the player base quite a bit, and
oh yeah, it was one of the best early access experiences I've ever encountered.
They like bounced ideas off of people and did a lot of play testing and et cetera, et cetera. So they're doing that again, and maybe that won't be that far off. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder at its core how different this is than original Hades.
Yeah, like the footage certainly looks like it's in very much the same vein.
Mm-hmm. That's Hades 2. No date on that. Brad, what else do you have on your list?
I put Earthblade on here from the makers of Celeste. Because the makers of Celeste making a new side-scrolling platformer is a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Celeste. I didn't love it.
Yeah, I like it. I admire the hell out of it. I didn't get super deep into it, but I think it's very good.
Great soundtrack.
Yes, that too. And like what they've shown of this, very much, it's pixel art, and like the soundtrack is kind of a bit melancholy in the same vein. I mean, they didn't show a ton of it, but and it's also 2 years away. That's a 2024 game, but
so far.
But yes, the makers of Celeste with a new game is kind of up there with the makers of Hades with a new game to me.
For sure. Next up,
Remnant 2. They're making a new Remnant.
This one I did not put on my list, but
Remnant's cool. They seem to have dropped the From the Ashes subtitle. I believe the full name is just Remnant 2. Is that right?
That's what it looked like when they in the news story I was reading.
Yeah. So, but I completely unexpected. Did not expect there to be more Remnant.
I don't remember Remnant.
We played a bunch of it. We streamed a bunch of it.
Like it was the 3-player.
Yeah, I think it tops out at 3. It's it's kind of like Shooter Souls. Like it's got a whole lot of Dark Souls-ish element or ideas or tropes.
Was that like 3 years ago?
But it's a third-person shooter. Yeah, it was like probably right before the pandemic. Like
okay.
I think it was a 2019 game.
Okay.
Very, like, it's not steampunk. What is that?
It's a cowboyish.
Yeah, there's a lot of wide brim hats.
Okay.
In that game.
Like floating platforms.
Steam Country.
A lot of gunslinger type imagery. but also monsters, but also ruins of the modern world kind of stuff.
Like there was a person who was like a tree, right?
You know what? Okay. The trailer, I'm watching the trailer again for 2. Also, it looks really good, like graphically. The first game was not like a huge looker.
Mm-hmm.
This sequel looks significantly better, but also the trailer basically ends with a giant dude in a wide-brimmed hat with a big buzzsaw, so...
That's my dude.
But yeah, Remnant was cool. Like the idea of a new iterated upon one of those is pretty exciting.
Remnant 2. Wishlist now.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Brad, on your list here, the thing
most
that's
important
started the Game Awards off, and
there's other stuff I could have added to this list. I just kind of stopped because you guys had put most of the other stuff on already. I'm not sure how I feel about this game, but that Michael Madsen project that we talked about last week got announced. It's called Crime Boss. Crime Boss Rockay City.
The most 2006 late game midway games ass fucking 6.2 on Metacritic ass fucking open world crime game I have ever seen in my goddamn life.
It really has a true crime Streets of New York kind of feel to it.
Oh my gosh, this game
narc ass game
of a time and place.
That could be intentional. I don't know. That might be the vibe they're going for. I mean, it feels... Did they say when it's set?
90s.
Is it actually set in the 90s?
It looks 70s, but I think they are going 90s, yeah.
Because the voice cast is extremely 90s.
There's a thing, if you're watching the trailer at around 10 seconds, that says it's in Florida in the 90s.
Oh, yes. Okay, sure. I missed that. It's a bit Miami Vice-ish, maybe a little, but it's like Michael Madsen, Kim Basinger, Danny Glover is in it, Danny Trejo,
Michael Rooker.
Vanilla Ice.
And Vanilla Ice.
Oh, and Chuck Norris, because somehow that joke hasn't died yet.
Oh, great. They don't really show the gameplay, but I think it's a first-person game, though. Like, it's mostly... No, there are just very short clips of some shooting from first-person in here.
Okay.
It's mostly cinematic stuff in this trailer, showing off the cast, but... yeah, it is... Like, the temptation is to think they're just doing GTA, but it seems like this is more of a first-person shooter? Which, like, I don't know. Maybe they're going for more of a Payday-ish kind of thing. I'm not sure.
There's definitely a little Payday flavoring in there for sure.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing about this game, also, aside from all the stuff you guys just said about time and place and what this game represents. Like, will this game have an actual Xbox 360 release? Because it should. There is we talked about, hiring actors that just look like actors now. We maybe didn't get into hiring actors that look like the actors 40 years ago.
Yes.
In the same, because everybody...
That's not what Michael Madsen looks like anymore. I'm sorry.
That's not what anybody in this game... That's not what Danny Glover looks like. That's not what Kim Basinger looks like anymore. So it's pretty funny that they have the actual voices, but you don't have to do de-aging because they're computer-generated people. So it's just, it is them. It's just a version of them...
Sure is.
From 30 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, you know what they have actually confirmed? It is an online PvE shooter, so it is straight up like a heist type game, like a Payday style thing. Also, it's coming out next March, so not that far off.
And this is 505, right? Like this is Embracer Group.
Publishing.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, 505 part of Embracer?
I just assumed.
I don't think that's right. No, that is not right.
Okay. Never mind then.
Or don't worry. Wait.
I know.
2 months.
It's safer to assume any publisher that is not one of the big six is just Embracer at this point.
Oh, we talked about that a while back. They're part of Digital Bros.
Oh, right. Yes, the digital bros from Italy.
Is that better or worse? I don't know.
It's definitely better. This game also on its end card here says save 40% from December 8th to 10th, and I wonder if that's save 40% of game comes out March 28th of what?
I don't know, but they're putting it out in conjunction with Epic. It's an Epic Store exclusive.
Okay.
So that sounds like some kind of heavy promotion they're probably doing to push Epic Store traffic.
That would track.
Okay. So is that gone? Is that past now? When? It must be past because that's December 8th to 10th. So This game comes out in March 28th of next year, so we're not going to get another December to remember. Crime boss Rockay Cité. Crime doesn't sleep. Crime doesn't stop. Alex, anything you want to mention here as we go through?
Yeah, most of the ones I have left are quick hitters. Vampire Survivors is coming to mobile as a free game, which is probably the right move on their part. And that seems like a game that will absolutely thrive in the mobile market.
It came to mobile. It's out.
It's out. Okay, so it's out now. I should go download that when we're done here.
Yes.
Dead Cells is getting Castlevania DLC?
Yeah, saw that.
I don't know what to make of that. I feel like, Vinny, maybe you have more thoughts on that, but I like Dead Cells.
I feel vindicated because when Dead Cells was new, I described it as a modern Castlevania, and some people acted like I was crazy.
No, not at all.
And now here they are.
It's structurally different, but I think vibes-wise...
You brought this about.
You did it. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's a Hellboy game, Web of Wyrd.
The trailer for that didn't do it for me.
Yeah, it didn't do a whole... I think Lance Reddick is doing the voice.
Yeah, I didn't... The look of it, I mean, they're going for a comic book look, graphic novel look, which is kind of cool, but yeah, it didn't look super interesting.
Yeah. And then there's, they showed new trailers for Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, and I am very excited about both those games.
Street Fighter got a date of June.
Street Fighter
2nd.
6 looks really good.
Yeah, that trailer was weird, though, largely because I didn't recognize any of those characters except DJ.
Yeah.
Are those all new characters, or am I just that out of Street Fighter? I'm not
Some
sure.
of them were definitely new. I'm not sure if all of them are, but like was it Marissa?
Yeah.
She's new.
Yeah, okay. That helps explain it, but I also just didn't feel like I got a great sense of the game outside of the fighting. Like, I'm continue to be curious about that story mode.
That hub area.
The hub, the roaming the Metro City kind of thing they're doing, but...
Feels like it takes place around Street Fighter 3, like there's like a vibe, like a street vibe or something. I feel like Street Fighter Third Strike, is that what it was called?
Third Strike was the last release.
Of that. Maybe it was the basketball. What'd you guys think of some Horizon Forbidden West DLC?
I kind of averted my eyes because I still, somewhere in my mind, I'm still going to finish that game.
It did have some, what I would think are some game-ish gameplay spoilers right in the beginning of that thing. So
yeah, I'm not super worried about gameplay spoilers.
Okay.
That's been unavoidable. I don't know about Hollywood sign and your far future apocalypse world.
Why not? Do you think it wouldn't have survived? Do you think that's the first thing they would have torn down?
That should be long gone.
That thing would have crumbled, man.
Whatever, it's fine. I mean, they're trying to drive home. They are extremely trying to drive home. Hey, this takes place in LA.
I'm excited. I know it probably won't push the main narrative forward, but I'm excited to see what they want to do story wise.
So did you play Frozen
Mountains?
The name? No, Frozen. What was the first Horizon DLC? Frozen North.
Might have been Frozen North.
Frozen Wilds.
Okay.
That was what I started to say, but there's been so many other Wilds.
I don't think I finished it.
I didn't either. That's the thing. I got fairly deep into it and didn't finish it. Apparently it had some, it was not critical to the main story of Horizon, but it was some, good flavor. Some good, here's another narrative thread that ties into the past type stuff.
Reference it in Forbidden West.
They do. That's how I came to know about it, was, there are references to it in the new game that I went back and looked up. And apparently that would have paid off pretty nicely story-wise if I had seen it through, which I kind of wish I had.
Yeah, if this is supposed to be April 19th, I assume they will hit that. I'm up for it. When is that? The mountain, the VR one? That's earlier than that, right? Isn't that February?
I believe that's a PSVR 2 launch game, right?
What is that one called? Call of the Mountain?
Call of the Mountain.
Okay.
I think that's a launch game.
Less excited. It better be a launch game. They need something on there. The other thing I dropped on here that replaced the game looks awesome. I really want to check that out.
I forget, was it 2 E3s ago or whatever E3 stand-in it was? I remember that making a big splash at a Summer Games Fest or whatever, and it's cool to see that still happening.
Yeah, that's just has a 2023 on it, so look forward sometime, hopefully in 2023. The other thing I pulled on here was they showed a little bit more of Atomic Heart. That game just seems neat. I mean, it's of a type.
Yeah, that game's weird because it has been a tech demo for a long time. Like I've had the Atomic Heart tech demo installed for like 2 years, testing undervolts on my graphics card and stuff.
Nice.
Which is like built out of the game assets. I mean, it's like a nice way to look at the tech in that game. That game looks cool as hell. Like I didn't write it down because it was just another trailer. Like,
yeah,
not much has changed other than they showed more of it, but it looks really nice.
It does look very cool. They showed Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I'm excited about, and put a date on it for March 17th.
Yeah, like I really like that first game, despite its issues of kind of needing a little more time in the oven. Mm-hmm. Also, not to just make everything about Andor, but it's crazy how much Andor has like recalibrated how I look at anything Star Wars, though.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. I'll still play this. The first game had a lot of good ideas, and I hope that they have iterated on those.
For sure. I wanna jump back into that. I really like that game.
Also, another thing, I mean, Cameron Monaghan is just a straight up TV actor. Mm-hmm. And so, like, everybody in the world is bracing for him to show up on one of these Disney Plus Star Wars shows at some point.
As Cal. Yeah. As Cal Kestis.
So it really makes me wonder, because that should, we've been talking about games with characters who are just actors,
right,
bodily as well as voice, and that game is nothing but recognizable actors. So, like, you could absolutely just have that cast show up on TV at some point, which would be kind of an interesting crossover.
I'll just mention this. Well, it's two things here. One was Meet Your Maker. I thought could be kind of cool. It looks like a co-op heist thingy, but with some style. These people have weird helmets on. Or it could just be one of those kind of games where you're like, yeah, this was neat once, and I don't know if I'm gonna play it anymore.
Yes, that's the game I thought looked kind of like Rage in terms of art design.
Okay, yeah. More spikes, needs more spikes.
A lot of the armor design and stuff kind of reminds me of Rage.
But Transformers Reactivate?
Oh boy.
Transformers Reactivate by Splash Damage? Like,
is that Splash Damage?
Yeah.
Huh, I missed that part.
Co-op online Transformers game?
Interesting.
I'm not really sure. They kind of have a teaser there. If you watch the teaser and don't know it's a Transformers game, surprise, it's apparently a Transformers game. That was a weird one. I like Transformers. These are clearly the Bay Transformers. But I don't know what this game is going to be.
Yeah. Well, this says 1 to 4 player online action game.
But what does that mean?
What to make of that?
Yeah.
Probably PvE.
Is it are we stealing Energon? Is it a heist game?
I don't know. It looks nice. Like, just graphically, it's pretty, assuming that's even real gameplay and not mocked up CGI gameplay.
Right. It doesn't have the little, like, what you see is actual gameplay. But yeah, that's what I was asking you guys off show. I was like, Splash Damage, are they mostly ports? Couldn't remember what they had done. Their list of games are a lot of games that are definitely not Splash Damage games. There are ports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
Support
Enemy
work.
Territory is their biggest claim to fame. I mean, that's
Okay.
like freaking 20 years ago at this point, but the Wolfenstein Enemy Territory is like revered very highly among old school shooter fans, and they made Quake Wars after that.
Maybe
and
this
then they made
will
Brink. And then I think everything changed after Brink.
sliding around in
Truly,
Brink.
for the whole world.
Yeah. Listen, I'll be curious to see what that game is. No date on it. But yeah, that's the end of my list. Aside from they showed some Space Marine, another trailer, but they didn't really show much more than that. 2023 Space Marine 2, I should say.
Yes,
but there are more things. We probably could have talked about everything, but to talk about everything would be as long as the actual Game Awards show.
Yeah.
So we can't talk about everything, but there was a lot there. There's a lot there.
Last thing I'll say, they announced a new Lords of the Fallen. Oh wait, no, actually, that's been announced, hasn't it? Okay,
because we've definitely talked about you can't just call their Lords of the Fallen.
I started to say it's just called the Lords of the Fallen, and then something fired in my brain, and it was like you've said these exact words before at some point.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Like, again, aside from what the show is and all that stuff, and some nice reveals. Maybe, I don't know, pound for pound, Brad and Alex, what do you think in terms of all of the E3-ness together, or just the Game Awards show? What do you think pound for pound gives you the most reveals and stuff to look forward to at this point? I know they're slightly different, but at the end of the day, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, they had a good list of stuff, a good list of announcements here. I mean, obviously, like a real E3 firing on all cylinders is going to trump pretty much everything, but we also haven't had one of those in 3, 4, arguably 5 years.
And it feels like what we have had, usually E3 was a little deeper. This is pretty shallow, a lot of just trailers with no gameplay.
Yeah.
And no, like, somebody comes on stage or talks about it. None of that here. But the E3s and PlayStation events that we've had recently have been fairly shallow in terms of just, I don't mean shallow like they're no good. I just mean in terms of depth of gameplay and diving into games. So I'm excited for 2023 and beyond. If that's the job of this show, then also to give some awards and recognition to the people who make games. But yeah.
It's the first time in a while it felt like there was some legitimately exciting stuff on the horizon. Not to say that there aren't games that look good for next year. There totally are. It's just that I feel like the cycle for a lot of those games has been pretty muted because everyone's kind of head down, like, trying to get back on development track with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it feels like we might start getting out of those woods next year.
It certainly feels like the industry is bought into this event at this point, judging by my Twitter feed and how it was entirely just about a play-by-play of this entire show. Like, people are just watching this as a matter of course at this point.
Somehow, the digest of all the trailers is also a way to go.
Somehow we made it all the way through this without talking about Elden Ring Kid. But anyway.
Live
Let's
shows.
Not. He doesn't seem like he was taking it very seriously, so there's no reason for us to do the same.
Also, the winner, we should just mention, Elden Ring won their Game of the Year.
Not a lot of other awards. I thought God of War was just going to sweep it, but then...
Is it Christopher Judge who won for the Kratos?
Yeah,
yes.
Boy.
He took his time.
Keeley wasn't even hiding it.
I mean, that was like very long. That was very long.
Like there were like 3 like lighthearted jabs at him at that speech from Keeley ad-libbed on stage throughout the show.
It was a pretty long speech, like, very heartfelt, very long.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but
I mean, how many more of these do you think he's going to win? Like he's just this is my time, I'm taking it.
No, I'm talking more that like the showrunners had not had any kind of plan for playing people off the way the Oscars does. Where
they tried, they put the music up, but it didn't quite work.
Yeah. Granted, they're not having to hit commercial marks like a broadcast TV thing like the Oscars does, so they could be a little more open-ended.
They're giving away their Steam Decks? Is that what they kept saying? Is that what Keeley kept saying? Okay.
That was one of the jokes, was Valve was giving away a Steam Deck every minute of that show, and it sure went longer. Say at least 5 or 6 more people won Steam Decks.
So Game Awards, I would guess there would be a Game Awards next year. This one seemed to be pretty successful.
Yes, they seem to be doing quite well with this.
I expect more famous known people to be winning awards. That's my prediction of like actors and motion capture and all that stuff. I think that trend will continue.
Okay,
that's a prediction.
Bold statement.
Look at me.
I mean, it's just entertainment. Actors are just actors at this point. Like entertainment is just entertainment. Like,
yeah,
they straight up had Troy Baker and Pedro Pascal on stage at the same time.
Yep. Didn't used to be. There used to be like dabbled in FMV, and that whole market went out, and then it was like, oh, video games are not where the money is, and then a lot of Hollywood left video games because they realized that it wasn't where the money was, and now the money is, and so here we are.
Well, I think a big part of it is that they are able to look good doing it now. Like, there was just a long time there where, like, having this dead-eyed, low-polygon mannequin with your voice coming out of it was probably not the most prestigious thing for a successful actor to do.
Or a low-budget FMV.
But I mean, like, the performance capture technology is there now where people can, like, oh, my agent can look at this, or this casting director can look at this game and go, like, oh, yeah, that's that person, and they are putting in a performance here, because, you can see it in the eyes now. Like, that's always the key for me.
And the money is there.
I mean, the key is like the life is in the eyes, and until they got that stuff working in games, like it just was not it's a much better look to do a video game now as a big actor than it was before.
I mean, the industry is huge financially now.
Yes.
Also, it is a big one. Speaking of,
tell me about the biggins.
Speaking of the biggins, Brad, is it getting bigger or smaller? What's our other piece of news here?
The FTC?
Yep. Is Microsoft, are we consolidating or are we
bigger? Or are we shrinking?
I gotcha now.
Okay, let me try this. I'll try this.
Or are we remaining the same?
Speaking of one game we didn't mention, how about this is my other segment? This is my alternate. Another game we didn't mention, Diablo 4. Activision Blizzard's Diablo had a trailer there, but that probably isn't the biggest Activision news going on. Brad, what else is going on with that?
Oh, yeah, the FTC formally filed suit to block the acquisition of Activision by Microsoft.
What does this mean?
I don't know that we're in a position to truly say.
Well, it seems uncertain.
I mean, it'll end up in court is the best that I can say. Is that seems where it's going? Yeah, I mean, there's still every chance this acquisition happens, maybe with some more concessions. But as of now, the FTC commissioners voted 3-1 to bring suit to block the merger. I thought it was pretty interesting in the statement that they put out that they cited right near the top the fact that they took games like Starfield and Redfall and made them Xbox exclusives as a primary inciting factor here in this action. That they straight up said, I'm looking for the language here. Oh yeah, Microsoft has already shown that it can and will withhold content from its gaming rivals. Like,
do you feel like that's a little unfair of a statement to put in there? I mean, that's I mean,
those were PlayStation games until Bethesda got bought, and then all of a sudden they weren't, right? So I wonder if whoever made those decisions at Microsoft is wondering, like, was it really worth it? Granted, that was also, I mean, that was a $7 billion acquisition, so not exactly cheap there either. I'm sure there was a lot of feeling of like, we need to get some competitive advantages out of this money, but I wonder if somebody is ruining that decision now. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, none of us are trade lawyers or anything. I don't know for sure where this goes, other than that Microsoft has said that they welcome their day in court.
Right.
To
right.
defend the merger. This quote on Twitter from, I've never heard of the Microsoft president, Brad Smith, before, but this quote from him on Twitter, while we believed in giving peace a chance, we have complete confidence in our case and welcome the opportunity to present our case in court.
There will no peace.
Yeah. All we know is that formal action is being taken by the government to stop this. Will they be successful or not? Who knows?
Do you know if this comes down to a judge at this point?
I don't know how this sort of thing is litigated.
Yeah. Like, is there an appeals process after that?
I'm really not 100% sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong. It is a giant ass acquisition. It is a giant ass merger. And like you said, there are instances where they kind of assured, I think in their statement, right? They said the European antitrust agencies that they wouldn't withhold games. And then they kind of did, like you just said, like Starfield and Redfall. Yeah. So, I mean, yes, court.
I still think this deal goes through in the end.
Yeah,
I think it's so huge.
I think it's probable that it will.
I think it'll take longer than maybe they want it to, but I think it will eventually end up happening because I think the case here, ultimately, I think there's enough concessions they can make to get it through. And as much as the FTC does seem like it is cracking down on some of these kinds of acquisitions, it doesn't seem like they are really standing in the way of a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they did block that Simon & Schuster.
That was one of them. They did, yeah.
Merger a couple months ago now, I guess. And like, you know, the UK famously killed the NVIDIA ARM acquisition. Like there does seem to be some renewed hunger for antitrust action.
I think there's a world where this, where Activision gets carved up a little bit, where some portions that like Activision publishing and Activision development, maybe, or some pieces, because Microsoft has said it's not even necessarily Call of Duty. They said it was the mobile stuff, right? It was King that they really
that's what they said, but I mean, I said it that week. Like, that does sound like a convenient excuse to get people to stop looking at Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think they're lying necessarily, but maybe they're downplaying the importance of the console business and Call of Duty in the process.
Because I do wonder if part of their case they make is that Activision needs somebody to take the reins, right? Their leadership and their structure, and they're without a corporate acquisition, they might be in worse shape, right? I'm not saying that myself. I'm saying I don't know if that can be part of the argument, or if they decide to carve up some pieces of it and give it and break it up so that's not as big an acquisition for other people. I don't.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that would require Activision shareholders probably to vote on that kind of thing. So I don't know.
So this will be in the news for a bit longer.
Yeah, we're not getting rid of the story anytime soon.
For quite a while. I mean, they've got until next June to close the deal.
And those lawsuits are all, or some of them are still pending. All of the Activision Blizzard stuff from California is still pending, or did they settle?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen much of that in the news recently.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that gets muddied up by some of this stuff too. Big business. Just to remind everybody, $68.7 billion deal on the table there.
Billion
dollar deal. $68.7 billion.
Billions and billions.
Would enable Microsoft to suppress competitors to its Xbox gaming consoles. Says the statement about that deal.
Again, not really wrong.
No.
All right. That is the news. Obviously, the biggest stuff there. People chatting away, talking about them. Game Awards. Sound off in the comments below. What are your...
We want to hear from you.
I do want to hear from you. I want to hear from you on our Discord. I want to hear from you in other avenues that are not...
I want to hear how you're doing.
I want to know
how things are going.
I kind of live watched the Game Awards on the Discord with people, and that was a fun experience.
Yeah, I was in there for a little bit until I had to bounce out. If you want to join us on the Discord or join people on the Discord, you can. But before I get to that, let me just mention, we do have emails for this show. We're not doing them this week because we're running on time, but we do have emails, and you can email us at podcast@nextlander.com. That's podcast@nextlander.com. Now, I do want to say, along with that we are getting ready to do our end of year shows. We're getting ready to do our Game of the Year shows, and we're going to have 2 episodes of those. One that'll run during the holiday break that we're taking off. One the week before that. So your emails might not make it onto those shows. That's what I'm saying. So if you want to wait, I understand. I get it.
Queue them up.
Or if you want to just put them out there in the ether or in the queue, you can do that as well.
That's right.
We appreciate
read everything that comes in.
That's right. That's podcast@nextlander.com. Now, getting back to this Discord thing, this Discord you can get on by going to patreon.com/nextlander.
Next what now?
Nextlander. Patreon.com/Nextlander. And you can join one of the best gaming communities out there.
It is a great one. Can't say enough nice things about it.
It's fantastic. I want to thank our mods for helping guide that community and all the people in there chatting, talking, helping me find the games to play, helping me find what to do with my gasoline storage issues. Patreon.com/Nextlander. You could get in there, find a tier that is right for you, a whole bunch of different options. One of those tiers will get you a video ramblecast. It gets you the Never Been a Better podcast, which has this week, or not this week, but the one that is up for December has Abby Russell and Jeff Bacalar. They're talking about snakes. They're talking about reproduction with snakes. Talking about Thanksgiving. Whole bunch of stuff. You won't believe what they're talking about on there. It's wild. One of the tiers on there, the Mysterious Benefactor tiers, gets their names written down and then read on this show.
You're falling apart here at the end, man.
I am falling apart. Alex Navarro, do you have the ability to save this, pick it up from me, to read these mysterious benefactors to our audience?
I am channeling the names. I am reaching across the ethereal plane, and I have obtained this information from deep in the cosmos. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are John Richardson, Fornak, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's mid-sized Voodoo You-Do, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, JM, Jerry Lee, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Thorpe Stay Healthy Crimes, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Razgriz, 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R., Kevin Villado, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Cheek, Andrew Slosky, Michael Jonathan Black, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Trees.
And those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. And I want to give a big thank you to all of them and a big thank you to everyone who has supported us over on the Patreon, who supported us watching our videos over on Twitch or YouTube or listening to this here podcast. Going to be around any family for the holidays? Don't forget to mention your favorite podcast, Nextlander. I'm sure everybody wants to hear about it. Tell them about it. If they're like, I don't know, I just don't know what to get somebody, be like, I got the thing for you. This Nextlander podcast.
It's not a gift. It's just a thing that happens every week, but you might like it.
This holiday, give the gift of us.
Give the gift of Nextlander to
Put
those.
Nextlander under your tree. I will scream until I am unwrapped, but you can put me under there.
We do appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. We have some stuff going on this week. We mentioned earlier in the show we will be streaming some grab bag stuff, possibly some Crisis Core on Thursday. Maybe we'll get into some choo-choo trains with Choo-Choo Charles if we have time. Some of the stuff we talked about here will certainly make its way onto that grab bag stream. If you missed on Monday, we streamed... Oh my gosh. Wait, we streamed... I Can Do This. Vinny Can Do This. High on Life.
There you go.
High on Life.
Forspoken.
And Forspoken, the Forspoken demo. You can go check that stuff out now. I was going to say Callisto Protocol, but that was
last week, buddy.
I've been playing a lot of Callisto Protocol. It's a fun...
Sounds like you might have been playing too much of it.
Maybe. Is there too much?
You're close enough.
Yeah.
You might as well.
And then Friday, you won't want to miss it. We're getting back into The Devil in Me, the Dark Pictures anthology. Abby Russell will be joining us. Possibly at the conclusion. I don't know. I don't know how long that game is, but judging by other Dark Pictures anthologies, I'd say we're probably nearing the end there. We're probably wrapping up. Feels like it. And then, like I said, in the coming weeks, we're going to be having our Game of the Year episodes for this podcast, which means we will be doing 2 days worth of, I was going to say deliberations, but we're going to be reviewing our Game of the Year picks and the stuff that we think stands out from 2022. And if you're wondering, there are games that do stand out. I have already started assembling a list, and I'll tell you what, they're pretty good games.
Speak for yourself. I like every video game exactly the same.
Exactly the same. It's a pie chart that is just split 52 different ways for 2022.
All are created equally in my eyes.
And then there's the bigger circle that just says Elden Ring. It's big. You know,
fair.
Elden Ring won that Game Awards thing. It's a pretty good game. I can't remember what's won in the past, but that's a good game.
Gosh, I'd have to go back and look. But the way God of War was picking up award after award, I just kind of thought it was going to be a sweep. But I'm glad that Elden Ring brought it home.
Agreed.
They deserve it.
It's a fantastic game. That's going to do it for this show. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Don't forget, during the season of people fighting about video games, we're all here to have a good time. If you like it, then you win. You know? That's what it is. And if you like what I like, then we both win. And then if you support me in liking what I like, then we can win the internet. So team up with me to get my games on top of the list.
Oh, boy.
Nope.
Oh, buddy. Are we campaigning here?
No. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week.
I gotta get my platform together.
We'll be back next week with more from the Nextlander podcast. See ya.